Okay, are we ready to start? Sorry, we're a few minutes late. Welcome everybody to the CPP Coordinator Conference. This is my favorite event of the entire year. And first I wanted to kind of do a roll call to see who was here last year. Wow. So, okay, 3, perfect. Who is the brand new CPP partner wanting to start in the fall?
Oh, wow.
Right, so pretty much everybody. And then we have a handful of people maybe who are new coordinators for an existing program. Yeah, I guess it's you guys. You're awesome. So thank you all for being here. I know some people flew, drove, road tripped. We think you're amazing. Okay, so basically today is just going to be the nuts and bolts because you guys are brand new. We're going to walk through kind of what the year will look like as a CPP coordinator, and it'll be mostly overview. And then tonight we'll have a celebration dinner, and that should be fun. A bunch more people will be joining us there. And then tomorrow we will go more into detail on some of these topics, as well as hear from a lot of coordinators on their perspective and what they've learned from doing the CPP in the last 3 years. So, one thing I wanted to say is we know that coordinators are the cornerstone of our program. You guys are so important to us, and you are important to the success of your program. So thank you so much for being here, for training and learning from everyone. So we're going to watch a video, and then after that, the dean of our program, CAPS, which is the College of Art and Professional Studies, will come out after that. This is San Francisco, by the way. They made an awesome promotional video.
San Francisco is the innovation capital of the world. But there is one thing that has never happened in our city's history, which is a spiritual awakening. You know, in 1919, a Christian university was founded in the inner city of San Francisco with the premise of it being a hands-on training center for urban missions. They moved out of the city, and in 2011, they shut down. There was an immediate thought that popped into my mind, and it was, hey, did God change his mind, or did men divert from the original plan? And we just believe that it's time to bring Christian higher education back into the inner city of San Francisco. And that's exactly what the School of Ministry is. It's Christian higher education with immediate practical application through the 14 ministries that we have going on here at City Untitled.
At the foundation of our School of Ministry is the belief that Christian training really has 3 important elements. 1, growing in knowledge of the Word and growing in understanding of theology and different topics that pertain to Christian leadership. But it doesn't stop there, because Christian training can't just be centered around the intellect, it also has to affect the heart. And so, at the same time, students every week are going out and engaged in evangelism, knocking on doors and getting into conversations with people in this community. And then number 3, and maybe most important, is that students are engaged in tasks every day of service.
We will discuss something in the Bible class, and then the next day it happens.
The first time that I ever stepped foot in here, I realized that it was a place that God was just moving.
While I'm in the School of Ministry, I've been working at school. The funny thing about that was I actually didn't want to be in the school, but God has just really been transforming my heart through that.
I work in the kitchen. I've been here for 9 months, and I'm loving it.
We have classes in the mornings, and then in the afternoon you would be in the building delivering food to somebody and getting to see what you were learning in class actually displayed in that moment.
It kind of took away some of the romanticism of following Christ, and it showed me what it really meant to be a steady follower of Christ.
But City Impact is a great place where we can come and learn about the Word of God and at the same time do the Word of God.
If you really want to follow Christ, if you really are serious about your faith, I would say come to the school. The School of Ministry offers accredited classes through Northwest University so that you can be here serving and being trained in ministry, as well as taking classes to get college credit and be working towards a degree.
So I want to invite you, come to the city. join the School of Ministry and be a part of what God's doing.
Jim Jessup?
I'd like to bring Jim up now.
That's what that was. City Impact, that was great. You guys have such a powerful ministry going there. What a pleasure it is for us to be able to partner with you. Welcome to the conference. We have this every year. This is the first time that we've been able to add a little bit of time for just essentially the new coordinators. And we're doing this because, well, the coordinators have said we need more time, especially the first time through. So thank you so much. And thank you, Rebecca, for putting this all together. Way to go. We really appreciate it. Let's pray. God, we're in this for you, not us. Yeah, we get excited about it. And we know that we can touch lives through this. But God, you are the one who is leading. You're the one who is guiding. You're the one that founded our ministries and put ministry within our hearts. And you're the one that's put a love for our students in our hearts. So God, we give not only this day and tomorrow to you, but all of the efforts we've already expended and the efforts we will expend. God, use all of this for your glory, that your kingdom will be established even more firm, and that we'll see lives changed for eternity. God, use our minds and our hearts. Keep us attentive, Lord, in Christ's name. Amen. Amen. Normally in something like this, we'd start off with a real big pep rally and get you all excited about it. But that's not what this is all about. So actually, I've been brought in to say, let's be sure we all start on sort of the same understanding. And I like to do this in a particular way that I'm going to say, if you're expecting particular things, you may be in the wrong area. For instance, if you want easy income for your church, you're probably in the wrong area, okay? This probably isn't for you. If you want to, as a coordinator, accept every student who walks up to you and say, you've convinced me, this sounds so cool, I want to do this. If you want to accept every student who makes application or inquiry to you, you may be in the wrong program. If you want a ministry to where there's no challenges, no problems, every student is the perfect student, no discipline situations, all students are going to do all of the work absolutely when it's due, you sort of may be in the wrong area. If you have students who want, honestly, if you want students who want to major in biology or chemistry or nursing or education, this may not be the program. If you want 100% live courses at your church, to where every course you have faculty or teaching and no online, this may not work out for you. If you want to start off with 50 students, 50 students, man, that senior pastor is going to be so excited about this. You may be in the wrong area. Although Florida is trying to get that, I think, right up front. So, how many apps do you have already?
30?
30 applications.
29. I know.
29, yeah, well, actually 29 in just a little bit of time. So, okay, but if you want 50 the first semester, we need to talk about that. If you're looking for students who did horribly in high school, but all of a sudden magically they're going to turn into A students because they spent a summer sleeping in late, all of a sudden it's going to okay. That may not happen. There may not be some magical transformation from what they did in high school to what they did in college. Although I must admit, we have story after story of students who really bombed high school, barely made it through, but they get into the CPP program and do really well. But that happens because of people like you, of coordinators that said, regardless of what your background is, now let's talk about what it's going to take to be a successful student. Let's talk about this strange word that you've not heard about a lot. It's called studying, time management, turning in assignments when it's new. If you're wanting a program that has all A students in it, this may not be the program that's designed for you. If you never want to call your lead pastor and say, Pastor, I got to update you on what happened last night. This may not be the right program for you. Why? Because God has called you and me to work with students in unique ways, combining ministry and their passion for ministry along with their academics. This program, I guarantee, works. It works for a lot of people. It doesn't work for some people. And that is where Carrie and the other presenters today and tomorrow is going to talk to you. They're going to present what it will take to have a successful program. But you and we get to work together in defining what success is. Is it designed for every student to get an A in all courses? Of course not. I mean, that's sort of unrealistic. Is it designed to help students understand what it's going to take to be successful in life? Absolutely. So on behalf of Northwest University, we thank you for the commitment that you've already made. Some of you, quite a lot commitment just to get here and to get here on time. On the other hand, we are committed to helping and working and partnering with you, whatever it takes to be able to work with your students. Carrie, have I missed anything? Have I said everything on your checklist?
So you're asking me about details.
You will find that Carrie is not the one I should ask for that, Rebecca.
You did wonderful.
Thank you again. At the dinner tonight, you're going to be able to meet a lot of our administration because they're looking forward to meeting you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The other thing you need to know is this program, Jim's the one that designed it. He designed it for us, and he designed it for the evil empire. Our good friends over at Southeastern, I'm really good friends with a bunch of their BPs and all that. So if you ever hear something like, well, Southeastern, just know that we're running very similar programs, and some of my best friends in the world are running the program over there. So there's no competition with them. I get that once in a while. So the reason we showed the video is not because that's the expectation we have on each one of you to establish your own inner city college campus. It was totally unrealistic when you guys made the video. But there was a vision there, and it's way more realistic now because they just acquired 100 students worth of housing in downtown San Francisco.
Wow.
Right? You're going to hear this again and again this couple of days. You are part of something bigger. And when we know how much work it is for a coordinator, day in, day out. You didn't know, you thought you were going to coordinate a program. I'm looking at Lynn, you already know this because you've done interns. No, you're parenting children, right? That's what it comes down to. And it's a lot of work. And you need sometimes to be able to put your head up and go, oh yeah, there's something bigger going on here. So that's part of our job. Now, what you're going to experience is basically our new partner coordinator process. Hey Grant, just say,
How are you?
yeah, I'm good. You got my coffee cup?
I owe you one.
No, you don't. Okay. I left it at the visit there, so I got a new one.
I was hoping you forgot about it.
Yeah, it was pretty nice, wasn't it? Okay, sorry. So, we just want to walk through our new partner orientation with a couple of new things. Our assistant provost, hey, right on cue, Ben's going to present some real good stuff about recruiting, but the next 10 minutes are probably the most essential part of the training, okay? We are going to play partner bingo. So I need everybody to put your card stuff down. You need to get out in the middle. We're going to pass out some cards, and you're going to meet some people, okay? Here's how it's going to work. We have bingo cards, and each square has a city and then the outline of the state. Your job is to get a bingo by meeting people and getting their names, writing their names down in the square, and we're going to do it in a little controlled way. So I'm going to say go. Number one, I am not a big rule person unless I'm making the rules, and I'm making the rules, all right? Number one, you can only ask yes or no questions. You can't come up to somebody and say, are you from Kalispell, Montana? Number two, When I say go, you only get to engage 2 people, and then we'll stop. All right? Trying to drag this out. Does that make sense? So you're trying to meet people, and when you meet somebody, you find out where they're from, and you write their name on there. When you get a bingo, I'm getting lots of blank stares. Am I not making sense? Yes? No? Okay. How many of you understand what we're doing? No?
You want us to do 2 people and then we stop?
Okay, everybody stand up. We're going to do this stack up. Everybody get out in the middle where you can meet people. Your job is to get a bingo by marking off squares of the people you meet. You have to ask them where they're from. Wait, but you can't ask them where they're from. You can only figure out where they're from by asking yes or no answer questions. Okay? Ready?
Oh, okay.
I didn't say go yet, Brian. I'm watching you. Okay, go. Find some people. Mark them down. No listening on other people's conversations.
Then you write my name. Sure. Okay.
So we write your name on it.
You write my name by the thing.
By the stick.
Yeah, so by that thing. Alright. Are you any of you from area?
Yeah, sure, that works.
I don't know.
All right, stop. Stop. I just like control. Okay, go ahead.
Is there 2 L's in the name of the town where you're
All right, stop again. I forgot an essential part of this game.
What?
We have prizes. All right, now go. All right.
Okay. So from the top level? Oh wait, so do we put on all the seats? How many of these go?
I think you're trying to do like a line.
So like, I can look at your name on this.
So either go, it's not to get those.
Okay, guys, no, I think just apply to the job.
Okay, stop again. This you're going to want to know. I've got a free square for everybody because they're not here. Hagerman, Idaho is not here. It's a free square.
Where?
Hagerman, Idaho.
Hey, I know where you're from. I know, I already marked you down too. Okay. How you doing? What is that? Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Anybody close?
Solid way to do it. Okay, so, New Life Church. Yeah, New Life Church. Okay, you're in Northwest.
Anybody want another free square?
Don't say that.
Sumner, Washington. But not here.
What's the new one?
Summer Washington, the top right.
Neither is Hagerman.
I just said Hagerman. You were
Hagerman is number
I was busy doing what I was supposed to.
So, New Life Church, is it hot where you're from? You know? Yeah, it is. I mean, well, it's getting hot. You know, I was thinking comfortable weather where you guys are. California. That's pretty great. Was it raining a lot? Let's get Seattle. Okay. It's not. Well, where are you from anyways then? Dublin.
Nobody's got a bingo yet?
Well, hey, good to meet you. You're kind of the same age. Yes.
Okay, last free square.
Yes.
Last free square. Tacoma, Washington. Well, we way overestimated you guys. We thought you'd be done much quicker.
Okay, Christian worship center. Are you in Manteca? Are you from the same city? No. Okay. I'm trying to figure out what city. No. So it's Idaho. Seattle? You are from Can we just keep Yes. Are you from Jacksonville? Lakewood.
I got bingo for Brian. Okay, let's stop right there, Brian.
I'm so sorry.
All right, don't sit down, Brian. You have your choice. You can have this stylish beanie, Northwest University, or a T-shirt, undisclosed size.
Maybe I'll go stylish beanie.
Okay. T-shirt. I have a T-shirt. All right, anybody close? Keep going. We got 2 more prizes. Look, everybody's giving up. All right.
I'm gonna hop into this, dude. So, what are your names? John.
No pressure.
Sonomish. You guys right there. That was really hard. Make a flute. I'm John. So, are you from California? I sure am. Most everybody is. Becca's like I would Florida. Are you guys in here? We're not. Where are you from? How's it going? Hey, love. I think I know where you're from. You're from Idaho. I am. John, good to meet you. So, Idaho. Is it Idaho? Yeah. I got a feeling for that. That's what I know. Since I really don't live there, that's where I work. Gotcha. I live there. Oh, cool. Do you live in this row? I love it. Do you live in this row?
All right, something's getting close.
Yeah, I'm all of this.
You got it?
I know, that's
All
what
right,
I'm trying
come
to
on
find
up.
right now.
Everybody have a seat. We have our second winner.
Yeah, I'm from Modesto.
All right, everybody have a seat.
I think there's a third prize.
Okay, so everybody sit. Come on, please. How many of you did not find your name on or your city on the bingo sheet? Dan and it's because we don't like you. So this is very important. We have some very cool churches as part of our thing. You knew I was doing this, didn't you? Yeah. But none of you are the coolest church in the program. Darren pastors the coolest church in the program. He is the Church of God in what city?
Zilla.
Get it? Church of God in...
Zilla.
Church of God...
Zilla.
Wow. It's right there. Yes.
No, this is our official name, but everybody calls us
Church of Godzilla. So welcome the Church of Godzilla to the program. Come on up. And because I lost my schedule long ago, I have no idea what's happening next. Oh, Becca's next. Here we go. All right.
All right, let's kick this off. I'm here to talk about the most exciting thing. A few slides in. Forms. Is that so exciting? Paperwork. Some of you have done some of these forms, and some of you have done half of them, none of them. So I'm just going to go through them quickly. Yeah, there might be a few people who haven't. So when you become an official CPP partner and you're approved through our provost, we will make you an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. And then when we send that to you, you have your senior pastor and a board member sign it. And when you return it to us, you're official. I'm looking around to see if any of you are still on the form stack. Has anyone not completed the forms? Oh, okay. I'll go quick. So hopefully from you, we all have a volunteer application, which is to make sure you can see student financials, student academic records. The W-9 is so we can return money back to your church in check form for the program fee. Yes, Andrew?
If we have missed one of those, would you have already told us, perhaps?
Yes, I will let you know if you don't have them all in.
I think we do.
I think you do too. Perfect. And then the last thing is the new partner worksheet just lets me know which degrees you guys want to offer and if you did elect yes or no to that program fee. Because the last thing we want to do is charge your student $1,300 if that's not what you want. So there are a few programs who don't charge the fee. All right, so that's getting started. Once you have done those steps with me, we'll move on to the coordinator training. So I sent a lot of you a coordinator's first 90 days. And what we've done this year is we've taken our handbook from last year, which we only have a handful of you guys from last year. So we took like our 10-page handbook and we turned it into a 50-page document. So I think all of you guys are going to want this. It includes all these guides. So the way we organized it is annually. So the first handbook just has, terms, definitions, that sort of thing, all the contact information. And then the coordinator welcome packet will walk you through the steps we're going through today, like getting set up your internship, promoting the program, and then into the academic processes. And then the enrollment guide is for your students to know all the steps they need to take once they apply. So I think it's great for you guys to have it too, so you can kind of see them through the process. And then after that, we have, I can't look up here, the student orientation guide, which just has some specifics on using our systems and that sort of thing, getting their password and email all set up. So that's a great thing for your student to have. That would be in August. And then after that, we made a brand new academic coaching guide. And you'll hear a lot about academic coach this weekend in the next 2 days. And you'll need that throughout the semester. So who's going to be supporting your students through academics? If you guys like paper, I do have a few copies. And if you don't like paper, yeah, you would. If you don't like paper, I will put on Eagle or email it to you. It's a really long guide, but it's great for you guys all to have one. And again, if you have an old one, it might be nice to get this one. There's a few things updated. Do you guys have any questions about getting started? You would like one? Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Yes. Yeah. You would like one too. Good. Okay, great. My 5 are gone. Perfect. So if you guys don't have my email address, get it, because I forgot to tell you, I'm your contact for all of you. If you have any questions, issues, I'd love to help you out, send you what you need, or get the answer that you need. All right? See, my part was boring. Now let's get on to a really fun part, promoting our program, and kind of speaking through getting that set up. Ben Thomas, our assistant provost. Yeah?
Yes. So some of you are saying, okay, 50-page guide, what am I going to do? One of the things that we did last year is we have something we need you to do, and we'd send this long involved email out, and you'd like go to sleep halfway through the email and go your eyes crossed. So what we're going to do is the emails are going to be simple, and they're going to say, hey, it's time for this part of the academic. We're sending out letters to all your students that have D's or F's. Please reference page, whatever it is, in the reference guide for the steps that you need to take instead of a long, boring email. And that way, it's really turning it into a reference guide. Ben's going to come up and talk about promoting your program. I have one thing to say about it. Most of you have heard this. If you are talking about the CPP program, or if you're talking about your church's relationship with Northwest University, we have specific text we need you to use. Because there's lots of little landmines in there that can get you sideways with your State Board of Education and possibly even shut down your program. Okay? So if you don't have that, I think it's in this booklet, but we'll get that to you. Okay? One other thing on that. No, I'm not going to do that right now. We'll talk about that later. So Ben is the assistant provost. A lot of you met him when we did visits, and he's going to talk about some real specific ways that you can handle students that you're recruiting and hoping to get to sign up for your plan or program.
You're good.
Yeah, here.
Am I okay without the mic? Yeah. Okay. So you might be wondering, why does someone with a title like assistant provost, why would he be talking about recruitment? Good question. In a previous life, about 8 years ago, I worked in enrollment and did that for 8 years. So I'm just here to share a little bit about those experiences and some concepts that might be helpful for you as you think about recruiting students for your internship programs. So first of all, whenever we hired staff, and this is a conversation that still happens, when people are thinking about working in enrollment, the first thing they think is, oh, I don't want to do recruitment. That just sounds like being a used car salesperson, and I do not want to have that kind of personal brand or image. Which is a very fair comment, and that is not what we are asking you to do. We're hoping that's not the tack that you take. But there are some things about recruitment that can help you. So what I want to suggest are a few things of how you can imagine recruitment to benefit your programs. So the first one is thinking about recruitment as just a chance to share information. This is a chance for you to dialogue with students who may be interested. It's a chance to develop relationships. You may have already known people who are a part of your church, or maybe these are people who are now getting connected. But this is a chance for you to develop a relationship and share what is unique about your church, what's unique about your ethos, what's unique about this internship experience that they're going to have. And through all of those things, hopefully you have the chance then to influence people and help move people in a positive direction. This has happened for me over time. It's really been exciting to see students that I worked with, eventually they graduate and start on their career path. Actually the board, or the person who's the chair of our board now at Northwest, I worked with her kids a long time ago when they were kids, before they came to Northwest. And 10 years later, she still, every time she sees me, she tells a story about, yeah, Ben, I remember you came and talked to my kids, you sent them a note, they ended up here at Northwest. And so to even have that years later is a pretty cool thing. And so I don't necessarily think that all is, being a used car salesman, but just the chance to work with students and help them find the right path for themselves. So one thing, can we go to the next one? As you start to think pragmatically about recruiting for your program, what can help is to think about a funnel. Whether you're hoping to have 1 student or 5 students or 10 or whatever the number is, you're always going to need more students up at the top of that funnel. And this is pretty standard sales information, but sometimes we just have to think pragmatically about what this looks like. So in enrollment terminology, that would start with inquiries. So who are people who have expressed interest in your program? And they're going to work through this process. They're going to need to apply. They're going to need to get admitted, and eventually register and enroll in Northwest and be part of your program as well. The key thing about this is that if you're aiming for 5 students or 7 students or whatever it might be, is figuring out how many people you need up at the top. That's not always going to be the same. You might need to think about 2 to 3 times the number of people to reach your end goal. Another key factor in that is whether they're high quality inquiries. So are they people who are academically prepared, who are going to be able to succeed in a program like this? Are they going to be able to manage the finances? Are they interested in this type of program? One of the important factors is it can go on either end. So if you're talking to students and they say, you know what, I want to pursue pre-med, or I want to pursue engineering, this is not the program for them. So we wouldn't consider them a high quality inquiry. On the other end, if there's somebody who isn't going to meet that GPA level, that they're also not a high inquiry. So you're really wanting to target the students who are going to be able to be successful as much as possible in a program like this. As you work through that funnel then, these are a couple timelines to keep in mind. So on the left, this would be a preferred timeline. This is your ideal student. So somebody who is kind of tracking along in the traditional college process. So maybe they're thinking about what they're going to do in September of their senior year. They're applying, they're submitting the FAFSA, and really just kind of going through the process in a nice, timely manner. I'm sure for all of us who went to college, that's exactly what we did, and so we're asking them to follow our example. Or then there's the fast track, which might be more of the reality of what you experience, but it does mean compressing a lot of steps into a short timeline. So that can mean it starts in January, it can mean it starts in March, but again, what it does is it compresses things. So if there's something that comes up on the FAFSA, or maybe you've experienced this, if someone needs to get their transcript during the summer, that can create some challenges. So it's just helpful to keep this timeline in mind, and the more you can encourage students to move along in that timeline early in the process, it's going to make their life a lot easier, and it's going to make your life a lot easier as well. From a programmatic level, as you think about recruiting, obviously we are coming up on the summer, you're coming up on even thinking about launching or relaunching in the fall. But as you get through the summer and then get into a new kind of academic year next fall, try to think about what are some things that you can do in the fall to plan for the following year. The fall is a great time to look through your materials. Are they accurate? Do they need to be updated? To relook at your communication plan, to think about how you're communicating with parents. Parents play a really important part in the decision-making process. And to be active about recruiting in the fall. Your recruitment is going to be going on throughout all the year, but the fall is a really important time to be doing that. And then when you're working with students during February, March, especially encouraging them to make sure they've finished up their application, that they're submitting their FAFSA, and finishing up those materials before schools close in the summer. And then thinking in August, what kind of final details you have to wrap up and getting ready for an orientation. So as you go through this process, we're going to encourage you to have a communication plan. That's something that we'll work with you on. We'll have some resources that we can send out after the conference is over. But at that very top level, the inquiry level, you can think about relationship building as you're engaging with students. You can think about communicating the benefits of your program. As you move into the applicant and the mid-level, there are going to be communications that come from Ruth, and Ruth is going to talk in a few minutes, but she will send information to students and copy coordinators, but that does give you a chance to connect with the student. Say, hey, I saw this email, you're missing your transcript, or I saw this email and you might need to take this step. That gives you a chance to step in and have a personal dialogue as well. The other thing that we're going to include with the resources is an Excel document, and we would highly recommend using something like, it's pretty basic, but you're tracking personal information, you're tracking where a student's at in the process, keeping some notes, what are they interested in, what's their degree of choice. And so using that will give you just a way to make sure you know where they're at in the process. And also, as you get into future years, you can look back and say, okay, we had this number of inquiries, this many students started. It will give you a sense of what you need to do for future years. So a few things to think about as you go through this process. A great conversation with a student when you're beginning is to talk to them. What's your goal? What are you hoping to accomplish? As you go through, continuing to keep the next step in front of someone. If they're an applicant, helping them make sure they get their transcripts in, make sure they're working on their FAFSA, just continually having that next step. Really having honest conversations both about academics and finances. Sometimes that might be information that you don't know until it comes in, but if you can find out in advance where a student is at academically, that will make things easier on you and them on the back end. And the finances are a reality, so it's better to have that conversation in advance rather than waiting until the very end. If someone needs to plan, if someone needs to take some extra time, if they need to be working during the summer, all of those are better conversations than when they show up for orientation. One more suggestion, so sometimes it gets to the first day and people have started, the first week they're having a great time, but one of the things that is really an essential part of recruitment is ensuring someone has a positive experience during their first semester. That starts with orientation. We have resources available to help with that, but you do want to make sure that students start really strong. The first week of classes is really important. Is someone participating? If you have face-to-face, are they attending? Did they turn in their first assignment? If someone falls behind during that first week, it's really hard to get caught up in the 7-week format. First session, same thing. If you can track how they're doing. And I know that sometimes this sounds like hand-holding, and this was a very different experience than I had when I was a student. But the world has changed in the last 20, 30 years, and there is a higher expectation for accountability, and we want to provide every chance that we can to help students be successful. And we know that if we can help students and intervene during the first week or the first few weeks of their college experience, then we have a much better chance of setting them up for success. So that goes all the way through the first semester, and just helping them with those transitions as they proceed. So just to wrap up, a few things that have been successful for us or that we've seen as you're thinking about recruiting. If you can narrow in on a niche and tell students this is what is unique about our program, that's going to be attractive to students. That's going to be attractive to their parents. Work that into a pitch, and that might be a 30-second pitch that when someone comes up and talks to you, you can tell them these are my highlights. You might be able to expand that into 3 minutes or 30 minutes, depending on the setting, but really developing that into a consistent pitch. Asking that question, what do you value? And sometimes it's not just asking them that directly, but figuring out as someone talks, what are their long-term goals? What are they hoping to accomplish? What are their concerns? And then you can help navigate the conversation that way. Like I mentioned, do have the money talk. Find out if they're planning for this. Make sure they know what the cost is. Try to leverage your influential voices. That might be yourself. That might be other people within your program. That might be other people in the church. And this doesn't have to be every single gathering, but on a regular basis, if you or the other leaders in the church are talking about your internship program, talking about this amazing experience, talking about the unique components, talking about student stories, that does have a big impact. There will be times that people say no, and it can be heartbreaking, especially you work with someone all the way up to the end, and then either something comes up or they change their mind. It does take a little bit of a thick skin as you're going through this process, and sometimes that can be hard. But try not to take it personally. It's not necessarily. It's not about you, but it will come up. On the flip side, celebrate the win. So if that student that you weren't sure about ends up starting and they're successful the first semester, they end up graduating, it's really important to celebrate those both within your program and your church and for the students as well. So those are just a few tips. Ruth is going to be your main point of contact. She'll talk in a little bit. But Carrie, am I turning it back to you? Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, so just in case it isn't clear what we're doing, we're trying to walk through the year through you. You've got a brand new program. First thing you need to do is recruit students. I want to come up to say this. We do have some deadlines on recruitment. We say recruitment starts in May. That's a lie. You can have a student apply at any time. You don't have to wait till May. Okay? We want to get those applications in as soon as possible, and because that way we can get them going in the process, we can get their financial aid done and all that. But how many of you have seen or used the drop-down application that we have online? So when you fill that out, Ruth is who it goes to. And Ruth is the one that works with your students through the process of being approved. So welcome, Ruth, and she's going to tell you how it works there.
So when your student fills in when the student fills in that form, we'll get a notification and right away contact you as the coordinator and send you a screenshot of it so you can see exactly what the student has applied for and all their information that you may need to know. Oh, are you going to be able to have this up on the screen? Is it next? Becca's handing it out, and but you will hear from us a lot. This paper that she's handing out has colors on it. The colors represent who does what. As a coordinator, you're the red, and the student is green, and admissions, which is Joan and myself. Joan's unable to be here today, but she's an amazing coworker of mine, and you'll hear from both of us a lot. So when we get the application, we'll contact you right away that we got it. We'll also contact the student that it was in and ask you both to confirm that this is right. We will not accept one of your students until you accept your student and tell us. So even if all the documents are in, it'll just sit out there until we hear from you, yes, I accept Sam, and then we're really depending on you for vetting. Our application is an application and transcripts. We know that you have other documents, maybe testimony, maybe references, whatever your church program requires. But we really are depending on you for some vetting on behalf of yourself and your request. Part of that, Ben mentioned, and I think it'll go into more detail tomorrow, but part of that is the GPA. A lot of your students are going to say, I don't know what my GPA is, but they should have a sense of whether they were a really good student or maybe not so much. You kind of need to find that out. If it's not a student that's going to qualify GPA-wise, don't have them apply. Give them some advice on what to do. We recommend community college for a while. Northwest is ruling. We want them to succeed, but they need to be prepared. So if you know someone isn't going to qualify, it's best just not to go through that process and disappoint them. So, because you'll be the one that tells them no. So, and that's probably not an easy conversation to have. Transcripts are a big issue for us. We need them. We need them all. We have some students that say, I don't want to transfer that in. I want to start from scratch. So that is not an option. We need all the transcripts. No way getting around these. So encourage them. We'll be after them all the time. We'll be copying you. We really need transcripts. We can't accept them until we have them all, not just one school, but all. You will be able to accept them with unofficial transcripts, and we call that conditional. So we'll accept them on a conditional basis, waiting for the official transcripts to come. That is going to mean they can only attend for a semester until they've provided all the transcripts. We will be reminding them. I can't tell you how many times. They will be so sick of it, but you'd be surprised how many times they ignore us. So we need your reinforcement as well. It will be helpful so we can keep things moving. So conditional is a term you need to know. That's yes, okay for now, but you still have to produce those. Regular is obvious, you're just fine, and then there's success strategy for students that need some assistance academically. Okay? You will get regular reports from us on the status of your students. Weekly, especially now as we're getting closer. These are all the students that are in the pipeline for your church. This is where they are, if we have transcripts, if we don't. So you're always going to know, but feel free to contact us anytime. Then the back side of this form, and this is also on the website, and I don't know if it's in the handbook you talked about, Becca? I think. This?
Yeah, put it in there.
Okay. So it's just about everywhere. I would use the one on the website because we do update it from time to time, and that would be the most current. But on the back is just some definitions for you. If you have a student that's continuing, has been in class now, they're taking the summer off, but they're continuing in the fall, they do not need to reapply. That's a continuing student. If you have a student that leaves your program for a semester or longer and they're going to come back, that is a reentry student. They do need to go back right through the application process. It's pretty quick because we have transcripts already, but you do need to do that. And then down further on that, I think, if you can scroll down, is just contact information, which is also in the handbook. So again, it's really an honor for all of us to work with you guys. This is an amazing program, and it's really awesome to be part of it. Feel free to email me anytime. I can answer questions. There'll be a lot of information the next couple of days, so if it gets overwhelming, hang in there. It gets easier.
So any questions about the application process for Ruth, or anything you're running into? Any of that kind of stuff? Yes?
When you say that the students don't have to reapply in fall, does that just automatically that they'll be put in classes and we'll get that information?
Unless they're telling us or you tell us they're withdrawing, that we will advise them to keep going. Only if they're out for 6 months or more, a semester or more, do they need to reapply.
Does the student's application need to be in by July 1st, or is the July 1st date like financial aid? Is it everything?
The deadline is July 1st, but
Okay.
any applications that come July 1st and after have to include the application, all the transcripts, verification that the FAFSA is done, not just, I'm going to get around to it. It really literally all has to be
So the
done.
whole package needs to be completed
Yes.
if somebody's submitting post July 1st.
If they're applying today, we've got time to work through these things, but that late, it is really tough to turn a student around and have them succeed, so all those things need to be part of it.
And remember, the reason for that is you've got 7-week sessions, right? And if the student is not ready to go with their textbooks, had a chance to look at the class day one, they're going to dig a hole real deep within just a week. So we just don't, we've seen it happen before. These students could succeed, but they're not going to just because we didn't get them ready. Always better to say, let's wait till spring. Someone else had a question.
If they're transferring from another college, do you still need their high school transcript?
If they have a year of college, we don't. but if they're not sure, because there's quarter credits and semester, just have them order high school as well. But if they have a 30 credits, semester credits a full year, we don't really need it. High school transcripts are tricky in the summer. They're just really hard, so I can't tell you how important it is for you to tell students to order them now, even if they haven't graduated. They're in the system and they'll get kicked out to us because the school's closed. We just really run into a difficult time with that. Anything else? Kyle?
Kyle's next.
Okay, Kyle is our internship guru. He has a great internship program, and so we're going to have him talk a little bit about setting up your internship.
Hey, yeah, so I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about our experience doing the internship. I actually don't have an internship any longer. I passed it off to Caleb and Michelle Crenshaw, who are doing a great job down in Modesto and going to take it way further than I ever could. So I'm just here just as a consultant, okay? So I'm just going to share a little bit of my experience when I ran the program in Modesto. And I'm going to talk about intern applications. So there's two types of applications. The first one is what you just heard about, which is on the website, which was like northwest.edu/CPP/apply. That's the online application, which is going to go directly to the school. The other type of application is one that's really going to serve you well for as a church. And this is one that's not going to go to Northwest. It's just going to go directly to you as a church. I think it's important because it helps you make sure that the person applying is serious. Instead of just doing the one-page Northwest online application, they actually turn in a more thorough application to you, which is where you would check their references, which is where you might make them, based on whatever you want, make them fill out an essay of 500 words of why they want to go to Northwest University in Bethel, San Jose, or wherever. So it's a tool made to help you. So I'd recommend you making sure you have a specific application for your internship, not just use the one-page Northwest one. But like they were mentioning, they take your word for it. If you say this person's good and you're turning in an application for them, or they get it online and you approve them, like they don't have to see the essay, they don't check the references. You're the reference and you're the stamp of approval. So it's for you to make sure that your kids are actually serious. I would recommend you adding a fee to your application packet. And I know this church partnership program is about making it as cheap as possible and all that stuff, and they do a great job. But if you add a fee to your application packet, it could do two things. One, you could waive it, and then the person there feels awesome because you just waived their fee. I remember I was at a youth convention, and I saw a Southwestern Assemblies of God University booth, and they said if I signed up today, they would waive the $35 application fee. And so I ended up signing up and paid tens of thousands of dollars to go to school, a little bit because I was excited I saved $35. So I didn't see what they were doing to me, okay? But it really does work if you have a parents' night, if you have a college night at your church. Have the application fee stamped on the packet, and then you can just waive it if you want. If you don't waive it, all of a sudden you have funds for it when you do your student orientation in the fall, and you can buy some really nice Northwest University swag, t-shirts, beanies, or whatever, so that way everybody starts with matching t-shirts and you get that community feel right away. So that's another way it can help you. Only you are going to look at it. It helps students get serious to know that they have actually filled out a real application, so you don't get all of the, oh yeah, did I sign up for that? No, I'm not going to do it, in August 27th or whatever. You make sure that you got people who are really committed. So consider that. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is the syllabus. This is the syllabus which you'll have to turn in that will make it so you can, your students can get the 3 practicum credit every semester. And for me, this was the most intimidating part of the of doing all of this organizational admin paperwork was filling out the syllabus. When I took classes in college, I didn't even read my syllabuses then, and now all of a sudden I got to read syllabuses here in these programs. So I'm not like wired that way normally, but the way they've set it up now with templates for your syllabus, it's actually really helpful and really, I think, easy. So just read through the syllabus and just kind of put in the information. That's the schedule, but you'll see the syllabus template that they have for you. And just write in the information that it's asking you about, and just consider having a few different levels of descriptions for your internship. So like a level 1 internship, you might write, they're going to be serving in multiple capacities, getting mentorship from different leaders. And if you're worried about the verbiage, if it doesn't sound like official or academic enough, just write what they're actually going to be doing, and they'll make sure, they'll vet it, they'll make sure it's in the correct academic language so you won't mess anything up. So first year interns, when you got them, viewing different ministries or whatever, you write that syllabus. Second year, so where they're choosing a ministry track and they're serving in the worship department for a year, you write that a little specific. And then you want a third year intern program, probably that will help for when you have a staff member who's not specifically in your intern program, but still is serving in the church and still could qualify for practicum credit. Now, technically, your staff members who are also in the program trying to get their degree, they can't get practicum credit for just like doing their job, everything that they're already doing. They can't just automatically get credit on top of that, but you can set up learning outcomes and learning objectives and have one-on-one meetings with them and even help them out where you're saying you're going to have verbal reports instead of weekly reports written out like your other interns might, and that would help them even more for your special staff members part of your program. And the CPP staff, again, is very helpful in making sure you're not doing anything irreputable for your syllabuses. And then lastly, you saw the slide up here, the weekly schedule. This is an important thing for you to have, I would say 90% done, mostly to help serve you in your intern program as you're going to be coordinating all of these young people's schedules and they're going to try and be working part-time jobs. Can I work at Starbucks and do this? If you have your main thing set, this is when study hall is, this is when work hour is, this is when you have to be at youth service or Sunday morning, and they have the main chunks of time in there, that will really help you not run into problems later on. So consider filling this out as early as possible so they can have that main chunk in, and then all of their other workarounds with their schedules can fit around that. That being said, you might need to schedule in some flexibility because some ministry tracks may not allow them to serve Friday nights at the gospel mission or go to youth ministry because they got worship practice or whatever. So I'd say about 90% done with some flexibility built in. So that's how we did it, and it worked pretty well for us. So if you have any questions, I'll be around. And now Carrie's going to come up. Welcome, Carrie.
I would say any questions about internships, but I didn't mention what we're trying to do this afternoon is totally overwhelm you. How are we doing? Good. Pretty good. We just want to give a snapshot of it. Tomorrow, Kyle in one session and then Christian from Canyon Creek in another session are leading a roundtable about setting up your internships. So all the questions you have right now, go to one of their workshops and you'll get a ton of good ideas. One of the best things about this program is we've got now 63 partners who have students who all have internship programs, and there's a ton of great ideas out there. There's places that are offering spiritual formation times every morning or once a week. There's places that are doing, some programs are doing life skills classes. How do you make a schedule? How do you balance a checkbook? Because you are reparenting, right? So that kind of stuff will happen. Any internship questions right now, burning questions? Yes, Lynn.
Have any of you guys had adult learners, let's say 25 plus, that are married, have kids, and how did you guys facilitate that in addition to your?
So the question is, what about adult learners? Lori, who is on her way, she's from Kalispell. They are setting up a program that they're calling Flex. And it is just CPP, but it's aimed at adult learners. And they're packaging it that way. And so the number one thing that I learned from Christian, because Christian's first plan was we're going to have adult learners, we're going to have interns, and we're going to treat them all the same. And Christian was ready to quit after 2 months. And what we realized is if you get adult learners, you have to have a conversation with them right in the gate. You are an adult. We are not going to track you down. We are not going to check your grades. We are here to support you if you need it, but you have to come to us. We're riding herd on these 18 to 24-year-olds. That's enough. That's what Christian ran into. He's trying to do it both ways. So in terms of a practicum credit for an adult learner, we've got 3 basic requirements. They have to serve 4 to 10 hours in an area of internship. They have to have some kind of weekly interaction, whether it's an intern meeting or a journal, or like Kyle said, a verbal interaction with somebody, and they have to do a reflection paper. Other than that, we leave it to you. If you feel like they are earning practicum credit and they're meeting those 3 requirements, we're happy to give adult learners practicum credits. Does that answer that for you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good. Anything else? Okay, so now I'm going to introduce the person that above all people you need to be friends with and be nice to. Anybody want to guess why?
Money.
Financial aid. Roger, could you please come up? And I do want to introduce our Vicki and Erica. You're not doing anything. Okay, so Vicki and Erica, please stand up. So Vicki is new to the university and she's heading a department called Financial Services. Student Financial Services. So you're not just opening up a bank?
No.
Okay. Well, kind of. No. So we're taking what used to be student accounts and financial aid and putting it under one umbrella. Erica is the financial services person that is assigned to CPP, so you will be interacting with Erica quite a bit. She will be bugging you saying, would you have them get their stinking FAFSA in? Would you have them sign their master promissory note? And other such things, right? And then I'll let Roger explain what he does, but he's just going to talk to you a little bit about financial aid. Thank you. Thanks, Stan. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Roger.
So, welcome to warm, sunny Seattle, if you're from out of the area. One of the people in this room used to work in my office, so she knows pretty much everything that you need to know as a student worker. She probably forgot it, it's been a few years since she did that. So, financial aid, first I'm going to talk about the FAFSA. And so, does anybody know that FAFSA is an acronym? Okay. Anybody know what it stands for? Federal. You're close. You're on the right path. It's free application for federal student aid. So if your student comes in and says, hey, I did my FAFSA and I paid $45 to do it, they didn't do the FAFSA really so much. They just paid somebody to do that and gave all of their private information to some firm that I know nothing about. So we usually, as far as I know, we always get those eventually, but just so you know. So that's the website that they should do their FAFSA. If they are under 24 and they are not married and they are not a veteran and they do not have a child that they support, I know they're going to say, but mom and dad aren't helping me pay, so I should be independent. That doesn't help at all. So most of your students in these programs are going to be considered dependents of their parents. Whether the student likes that or whether the parent likes that, it doesn't really matter because the government says that they are. Under rare, very rare circumstances, they might be able to appeal that, but just so you're aware of that is they are going to need their mom and dad's, or one of those two if they're split family, tax information. So that will be the document that determines if they get Pell, which is a grant, which is free, which means they don't have to pay it back. Or they will get student loans, subsidized or unsubsidized. And if they want to use federal student aid, they have to do a FAFSA to do that. There's really no other way for that to happen. The difference between subsidized and unsub is subsidized means they don't pay interest while they're in school. Unsub, they start accruing interest right away. Neither of those do they need to make payments while they're in school. So if they're panicking about I can't pay my rent and go to school and work and pay my loans and pay my phone bill or whatever, it is deferred until they're done. So the student accounts piece of this, the student's account information is available on the Eagle page, and I will encourage you to encourage them to check their student account on their own. You can certainly do that in a session once a week, say, hey, everybody log into your student account, because then they can see, oh, look, my aid posted. Oh, look, my aid hasn't posted. And if it hasn't, then they need to contact Erica. And it's just a good habit. We tell students to come on campus to check it all the time because occasionally there'll be a fine because they park in the loading zone or whatever, and then that will affect them later and they'll get late fees. So part of the things that are there is statements, so those end of the month things that says, yes, everything's paid in full. That's there. We send an email to all students saying it's available. We don't ever send it on paper. So if they're going to wait by their mailbox anxiously waiting for their statement, they're going to wait a long time. It also shows a running balance so they can see literally my charges went on today, my aide went on earlier this morning, those kind of things. Next year, when they're doing their taxes, or their parents are doing the taxes, they're going to want to know the 1098T information. That's also available on the Eagle page. It does get mailed out to their designated permanent address, which is usually going to be the parent's address, in February timeframe. They can also make payments. So if they realize, oh look, my aide came and I still owe $75.23, they can make a payment through that system. It's all secured and all of those things that they need. The account must be paid in full each term. So it's technically due, everything's due the first day of the term. So anything that's not covered by financial aid needs to be paid. You won't be able to register for spring unless fall is paid. So if you get to November and you're hearing students say, my aide hasn't posted, I owe a bunch of money, do you know why? Well, you can certainly help them with that, and we'll try to help you help them. But they can also contact Erica, and she'll say, well, you'll have to do your master promissory note, we haven't received it yet. Or, yeah, you need to do a payment on the system. I can help you with that right now if you'd like. I think I have one more slide, if I'm not mistaken. So, the contacts, CPP Financial Services at northwestu.edu is the best way to get in touch with the department. That will go to, currently it just goes to Erica, but I lost her name, Celeste. Is starting in a couple of weeks, so there will be 2 people responding to those emails. I don't know, I'm not a big fan of calling people in general, so I would use the email anyway, but you know, if there's 400 students in this program in general, and you all call Erica on the same day, she'll probably quit, but she will not be able to respond to everybody in that time frame. But if you send an email and just say, Erica, why hasn't my aide posted? She'll be able to get back to you as quickly as possible. It also gives us a record so that we know, yeah, you emailed us this question, or we answered that question last week, and asked you another question, but you haven't responded again. So it's a great way to communicate, obviously. If you're in the area, she is located in the Barton building, which is commonly known as the Seahawks building, which is above the campus, kind of above the chapel. I don't know if you guys are doing a campus tour, but you'll see it up there. Erica will also be available if you have a downtime here. She is, I don't know what your office number is, do you? 230? Oh, it's on there, okay.
Yeah, it's on there.
Okay, great. It's in Barton on the 2nd floor, 234. She's there all day, every day. And if she's busy, I'm usually around, or Vicky, or somebody will help you, we promise, eventually. Does anybody have any general questions about aid or student accounts? Yes.
If you have a student that's an undocumented immigrant, some schools allow them to apply for aid using, for specifically in Washington.
Right.
If you guys don't accept that, do you have any suggestions other than, hey, they're paying out of pocket?
Right. So undocumented students in Washington State can do the WASFA. Unfortunately, because you're a church-based program, you wouldn't qualify for Washington State aid. And it's state law, and I would love to change that, but I can't. So there are some lenders that will do alternative loans for undocumented students. It's a challenge because they're probably going to need a cosigner that does have a social security number and that kind of thing, but that's kind of a bank-by-bank thing. If the student is a citizen but the parents are undocumented, they can still do a FAFSA. It gets a little hairy, but it happens all the time. But.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Great. Did I see it? Bev, that was Bev back there, I think, that I thought she raised her hand, but she didn't. She knows the answers too. So, okay, thanks for your time.
Right, thanks, Roger. So I think my experience with my kids was FAFSA is FAFSA.gov, right, Roger?
.ed.
What's that?
FAFSA is FAFSA.ed.gov. If you want to see the thing that Roger was talking about, go to FAFSA.com. And they will offer to submit your FAFSA for you for a fee. And you're giving someone you don't know your personal information, and they're charging you for something free. So now Jessica's going to come up in a second. Jessica is the one that when some of you got into this program and you said, I'm going to design my own degree. I'm going to offer the classes in the way I want to offer them. We're going to do nothing but Bible. Jessica is the one that made me come back to you and say, no, you're not. Because if you're going to pursue a specific degree, there's a progression of classes you have to go through based on what you've taken in the past, based on the writing requirements for later classes. And I guarantee you, if you've got a better idea, it's not, because Jessica will tell you, yeah, but if you do this, this is what's going to happen next fall. So Jessica, come up and talk to us about advising.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I am the advisor for CPP. I'd say 95% of our students are under me. So that means I get to make schedules for you guys and do student support kind of stuff. So I'm kind of your students' representative here at Northwest. Okay? So my job here is to make sure they get through the program successfully. I help monitor grades, make sure that they're moving forward, not backwards. So I'm holding a few different workshops tomorrow on this, so I'm kind of going to do a flyby, and then if you guys need some more information, you can do that, do one of my workshops tomorrow, or I can, of course, set up training or anything like that you need too. So the first thing I'm going to go over is the academic coaching tools that we have. So we're kind of going with a new process based off of 3 years of kind of wading through the different things. Where you guys as coordinators, or you may have somebody else in your church that will be doing this, is essentially you're going to be the one that helps them through their academic process. So you're going to be my representative there. So you're going to help watch how they're doing in their classes, make sure that they're answering my emails timely, things like that. So you're kind of going to be more of a mentor in that sense. So this slide here talks a little bit about the resources that we have for your students. So NU Online is our online platform, which I've taken online classes myself, and this one is pretty fabulous, I have to say. So it's really easy to use, really user-friendly, and we'll have somebody tomorrow at one of the workshops showing you guys all the ins and outs of how it works. Smart Thinking is our online tutoring service that your students have access to. So we use that for if they need help with math, they need help with science, or anything like that. They have a writing center in there, so they can turn in their writing papers there and get feedback and checks on grammar and all that fun stuff. We also have somebody tomorrow talking to you about our library. So your students, even though they're not here on campus, they do have access to our library. So we have different features. They can look up articles. They have access to our reference librarian. They have a really cool 24/7 chat feature. So your students, if they're like me in college, we're working on homework at 2 a.m. in the morning, they have somebody that's able to answer their questions. If they need a direction on a paper or how to look up an article, how to cite something, there's somebody there to help them. We also have some academic help videos that Carrie and a few of our other staff members have tracked down. So I don't think, is that hyperlinked, Carrie?
Do you want it?
No, we don't need it.
Okay, perfect.
So there's different study helps like that that we can go over too. So a lot of the academic coaching part kind of falls under here. So through the study skills, you're helping your students through time management, training their homework. So a lot about what Ben was talking about with recruiting students, it goes all the way through their program. So it's your job as coordinators, as academic coaches, to make sure that they're progressing and moving forward. The grade checks and assignment checks. So that is something that falls on my office as well as you. So what you guys do, you will have access as coordinators to look into the classes themselves. So you'll be able to see which of my students have missing assignments, who's failing classes, who's getting a D, who promised they were going to do this homework over the weekend but went to the movie instead. So things like that. So you and I will be tagging in this. So I send out grade checks to you guys. So any email I correspond with the student on, you guys are copied. So you can see advising emails that come through with their schedules, grade checks that come through. So it's definitely a partnership between the two of us. So I rely on you as much as you rely on me. So they get sent grade checks a week after the first week saying, hey, I'm watching, you haven't participated yet. If you don't, you're going to be dropped. So that should be a huge red flag to you and your student. Get something in, otherwise you're going to set yourself up to fail the course. They also get the same grade checks on week 3 of the course and week 6. So once they get to week 3, and if they still have not really participated, they're on a very slippery slope. If they haven't caught up by week 3 of a 7-week course, odds are they're not going to. So it's at that point we really encourage them to really decide, okay, am I going to push through and get done? Or a lot of our students, that is when we encourage them to withdraw from the course. A W in a course or a withdrawal in a course will not affect their GPA, but it will impact potentially their financial aid. So the student will have to weigh which option is better for them, but contacting me, contacting you guys, contacting financial services is really a key thing. So making sure all of us stay in communication is important through the entire process. Okay, let's see. Carrie made these slides for me, so I'm kind of taking a look here. Okay, so the process, so academic coaching, it really starts with when you first recruit the student. So Ruth had talked about your GPA requirements and success strategy when somebody comes in as a regular student. So for me, the success strategy students, that's your primary concern. Those are the students that are maybe didn't do so well in high school, didn't do so well in previous college, and you really want to hone in on making sure this is a better college experience for them. So May through August, this is when I start advising your students. So they should be looking for an email from me, you should be looking for an email from me that has their schedule for the next semester. So they do not have to register themselves, we do that on our end, but what they do have to do is accept that schedule and confirm that that's what they want. So, and that's based off of any transfer credits that have come in, any classes they've taken already at Northwest, their internship credits, things like that. So that is their time to speak now or forever hold their peace. If they decide to change their major, they want to do only 6 credits instead of 12, that's their time to say something. August is when you guys will be holding your student orientation, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow. But that's when you guys will be able to set up your weekly internship schedule that Kyle was talking about, blocking out other classes, blocking out meetings you have, events you have, things like that, so they can really get a realistic picture of what this is going to mean for them. And then, of course, going through the first day of class, the checklist. Do you have your books? Have you done your homework? Have you looked at the syllabus? Things like that. So, as Ben said, it's a lot of hand-holding, but these students, a lot of them haven't been successful before, and this is their opportunity to really grab the horse by the mane and go for it. And then, in September, we are kicking off what we are calling academic coaching centers, which is a glorified way of saying it's a study hall. So it is where they will fill out an academic planner, planning out their week, when their homework's due. So this is taking their weekly schedule and honing in, okay, when am I going to read those, 2 chapters in this book, do this paper, do that quiz, things like that. It's also a good time to go over any resources like we talked about, the online platforms, smart thinking, using those resources. This is a good time to really pull everybody together. Sometimes they're not all in the same class because of transfer credits, but this is a time where they can get together and work on homework together, do reading together. So not only are you holding them accountable, their peers are holding them accountable. Okay, and I kind of already touched on this a little bit. The grade check letters I've already talked about. The difference between a drop or a withdrawal is a very common question and interchanged a lot. So a drop means this student has decided to not take the class and it's not ever going to exist on their transcript. That can only be done for a very short amount of time in this semester. They have the first 6 days at the start of the session to drop it. So that means it comes off of their bill, it will adjust their aid, all that fun stuff, but it will look like they never took it. A withdrawal, however, they are still financially responsible, so they will want to talk to financial aid, definitely. And then a W will show up on their transcript, saying that they withdrew from it, but it will not impact their GPA. An administrative drop or withdrawal is when we have decided to remove the student. And that is normally done during those weeks 1, 3, and 5 grade checks. If a student has not participated for 2 weeks or more, that tells the university that they are no longer taking this class, they don't care about it, they don't want it, we pull them out. So the withdrawal, same thing. There'll still be a W on their transcript and all money for it and all that fun stuff. And then of course, failing a class, hopefully none of you have experienced that, but if you fail the course, it will impact your GPA. But Northwest has a forgiveness policy, so a student may decide to fail it and would rather retake it and replace that F, and it will increase their GPA again. Okay? Carrie, do you want to talk a little bit about the partner assessment, because that's your thing?
Okay, so, yes, Vicki.
Just a question. If Northwest administratively drops a student, because they don't participate in the course, the student's still financially responsible for that course?
No.
If it's dropped, it disappears completely from their records, so at that point it becomes, they're registered for the 12 credits, and then it would drop down to a 9 credit. So I don't know the ins and outs of it, but based off of what, please correct me if I'm wrong, they haven't been responsible for it because it comes off their bill.
So, but you have an administrative drop / withdrawal?
So I just put it as a slash because we do drops and withdrawals. If it's a withdrawal, then it still is on their record. And they're still financially responsible for it.
So what makes your decision different if you do an administrative?
So it's the timing. So I had talked with the financial director. Yeah.
And participation.
Yeah.
So in a weekly online class, they have a practice quiz on Wednesday, a real quiz on Thursday, a discussion project on Thursday, and then a paper on Sunday. If they have not participated in the class, we can drop them. And even if they've taken the practice quiz, that does not count as participation in the class because it's not graded. But if a student takes we have some students that blow off the class, but they take the quiz every week, and that's all they do. As soon as they've taken one quiz, we can't drop them because they've attended the class.
So the administrative drops, we only do that very first week. So it's within the drop period. So on Friday, if they haven't participated yet, I email each of these students saying, hey, guess what? You need to have something done by Sunday night, the last day to turn something in that week. And if you don't, you will be dropped from the course. So that first week is the only time we do a drop. Anytime after that, past the drop deadline, it becomes a withdrawal.
I see that hand. Come down. I'll pray with you, son.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What is your philosophy with the administrative withdrawal, let's say on week 5, for example? Because they're pretty much done with the course in 7 weeks. Rather than just say, hey, guess what, you get an F because you failed over 7. It's just because you're so kind and you want them to succeed
What
so
we
much, you would rather
normally,
withdraw
yeah,
them and
that is a
not
very
let them
good
back?
question. So what we normally do, some of our students by week 5, if they've been participating off and on, my hands are tied, I can't do it.
Sure.
So at any point in the course, if they get to week 5 and they have 2 weeks where they have not done a single thing, I can remove them. If they have done a quiz every once in a while, and when it comes down to week 5, and they participated up until that point, but then they decide to not participate in those last 2 weeks, that winds up being on the student, and they get the F on the course.
Yeah, there's just a lot of negative consequences that come with an F. And sometimes if we can help them out a little bit. And the 2-week participation, they're already past the late work deadline, so they can't get that work in for 2 weeks ago. And it makes it almost impossible to get anything but a D or an F at some point.
And before any of this stuff happens, we send out a warning email to the students saying, hey, if we don't hear from you by this date, this is what's going to happen. Because we do have students that will email back and say, you know what, I would rather get an F and just do the forgiveness policy. Or, I'm a VA person, I can't retake this course with an F or anything like that. So we give the student an opportunity, or the coordinator, because you'll be copied on it. That is your indication to touch base with your student.
Wait, you're not a coordinator, you only get one question, sorry.
Since I have this audience, I have an opportunity.
There you go.
So I think it's important also for the coordinators to know that if a student does withdraw, whether we're giving them an administrative withdrawal or they withdraw and they borrow, they are now liable for that loan money.
They're paying for a withdrawal.
Yeah. So we make that very clear in our warning email to the student that this is what it means, this is the impact of an F, this is an impact of a W. And we try to copy you guys on anything that, like, we're administratively removing anybody. So CPP goes to Eric on things like that. So when we make changes like that, everybody, our registrar's office, you, the student, and financial services are all on the same page.
Yeah. This is kind of a subtle point, so I'll say it slower. It's always better to get a B or an A. To get a B or an A, those are better than Fs and withdrawals. If you're not, to earn one. Thank you. It's always better to earn a grade than to not pass. That's always in your student's best interest. Oh, great. Yes, Bev.
I just want to make sure the coordinators know they are so important in this process.
Yeah.
You are copied on everything. And it's up to you. You're boots on our you're boots on the ground. So we really need you to take, talk to the student and say, hey, what is going on and what to help. We can just do that from afar, but you're right there.
Yeah, that's why we're doing those weekly academic coaching centers. It gives you an excuse every week to be in the room with the student and they know you're coming, right? And to have an accountability point. One of the things about these online classes is you never ever have to actually face a teacher, right? You're not coming next week and you have to explain, I don't have my paper in. Well, this makes them have a point of accountability. I saw it, yes.
Okay. The issue that I had as far as being a coordinator and also being a student, is I wasn't getting copied on some of those emails, or most of those emails. So I had a very difficult time. I didn't know some of the students were a couple weeks behind until they were like, I don't have a way to catch up now. So how do I go about finding that out? I know John's my point of contact and I work with him, but I mean, I really need to know that stuff.
You provide. We have a couple places where the coordinator is a student. Technologically, it is a challenge. So you need to talk to Bev or to Becca and to figure out how to do that, because it glitches our system to have you both coordinate, and it causes us stuff that we don't even know what it's doing. So that was a technology thing. So this last bit, I have not got this approved, but I am trying to get a way to put you guys on probation. What I really mean is, if a partner is having an overall cumulative very low grade point average, or having a high percentage of students receiving those, what's the right way to say them letters?
Grade check letters. Grade
check letters. I call them F letters and I'm not allowed to do that. So I will not call them F letters. They're not called F letters. They're grade check letters. That means that you're having trouble getting your students started at the beginning of the session, right? Because a bunch of them are getting those letters and then they're catching up. And really the goal is, I want to, as the director of the program, if we have partners that have an overall GPA that's kind of low compared to other ones, or you have a high percentage of grade check letters, or a high percentage of withdrawals or failures, I'm not going to come with my stick. I want to sit down and say, hey, let's just see what's going on. How come there's something that's not happening here? Let's figure out, because we want these students to succeed. So we already have some candidates. You're all new programs, so none of you are on the list, but there's 3 or 4 partners, and I'm just going to sit down and say, tell me how you guys did this. Tell me what's going on. And I've got a feeling I can guess what's going on. It's all to serve you and ultimately to serve the students. Okay? Okay. Everybody who's now, yes, Keely.
This is kind of a vague question, but one trouble we ran into is, like, early on in the semester, a student struggling in classes, we would meet with them. They were in contact with their professor on turning in papers late, and I know NU has a policy on turning things in late, but they're like, oh no, this professor's like gonna give me 100% for the paper. And there's no way for like coordinators to really intervene in between the professor and talking with the student. And then we got to the last week and they were still failing the class. And that's where we ran into a lot of tension with like withdrawing in the last week. I don't have like a particular question on it, but do you have any advice towards that?
Yes, one thing you can do is say that's fine, but in our program, we expect, because of the workload that you are encountering in this inner city urban ministry, we know that you will not succeed unless you stay up on the. So it is you enforcing this as a parameter of the San Francisco City Impact College. Okay? And so we'll back you on that.
Okay.
That's one thing you can do with that. That, or you can just get a weapon and threaten them.
That sounds more empowering.
Sounds more gratifying, doesn't it? Yes, John?
I actually called a professor on a similar situation. A student was getting behind.
Yeah.
And they said, well, I've got it all fixed with the professor. I called the professor, and that was not true.
That's another alternative. And if you don't know how to get a hold of the professor, we will help you. We encourage that kind of proactivity. I was wondering about that. Sometimes they don't always tell the truth, right? So we're almost done. Anything else you have? Okay, thank you, Jessica. Everybody stand up and do 20 jumping jacks. Or at least stretch, because I know everybody's just mid-afternoon and all that. And I'm going to ask Kyle to come down. And I didn't ask him permission, but that's okay. I've known him for a long time, and I've heard a lot of his stories. I'm going to ask John to come down. Loki. And who else am I got? Oh, Rita's coming down. You're coming down, right? Yes. So all we're going to do is your questions might not even be addressed to the people in front. It might be one of our staff. But we wanted to just kind of open it up for about 10 minutes or so. Any questions you have about anything. It doesn't have to do with CPP. It can be about the Seahawks. It could be about anything you want. And John will answer it. I didn't want to. So all we're doing is Kyle introduced himself to you. He was a coordinator of one of our well put together programs, and now he's basically my biggest recruiter down in Northern California. Maria is the coordinator at Canyon Creek. And then John has been our main coordinator in Southern Idaho, and he is over about 6 or 7 different churches that are doing stuff. And you may all be tired and not have any questions, but that would be okay. Any questions you got for anybody, or in general? Yes?
So it sounds like that Eagle page is going to be the main resource.
That's right. So any